Welcome to Dare to Know, interviews with quality and reliability thought leaders. I'm Tim Rogers, and today we have a special interview recorded by Fred Schenkelberg. Fred's guest was Kellie Schneider, assistant professor in the Department of Engineering Management, Systems, and Technology at the University of Dayton. Prior to joining the faculty at the University of Dayton, she was an instructor in the freshman engineering program at the University of Arkansas. Her primary area of research is in repairable systems modeling, specifically in the field of selective maintenance. She's a member of IIE and ASEE. Let's join Fred's interview with Kellie Schneider.
Hi, welcome to Dare to Know. This is Fred Schenkelberg, and I'm very happy to be sitting down with Kellie Schneider. And Kellie Schneider is the chair of the tutorial program this year at Rams, and on so much more. You've done a bunch of stuff in teaching and publishing, and I think you have a tutorial here itself.
I did, yes.
Yeah. So, well, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Right. It's nice to be here.
Right. I don't know where to start. Let's start with, you're the chair this year. How'd that happen?
Yeah, so I've been serving on the management committee. This is my third year on the management committee, and Caroline has been the tutorial chair for many years now, and she and her husband took a sabbatical. So they spent the last semester in the UK, and so I was allowed to serve as chair this year.
Does that mean you're
for the committee.
Go-to woman to make things happen in the committee?
Well, yeah, that's pretty well known.
You make stuff happen, and and it shows. It's I know Carl and I in our tutorial really enjoyed having you work with us to produce it and make things happen. And any request was taken care of. You kept us informed, all that stuff. But now you've got what, 24 tutorials?
We have 22 tutorials. So Rams really does pride itself on the quality of our tutorial program, and we could not do it with authors like you and Carl and the other 20 or so tutorial authors. People don't realize what a large undertaking it is to prepare the tutorial. So, in addition to the 2-hour presentation, there's also a written document that goes along with that.
And it's not a 6-page one.
No, it's usually, most of them are in the 9 to 12 page range, but it's in that IEEE format. So if you double spaced it, margins, you're talking 20 so pages. It's a substantial effort.
And that document's meant to be a supplement to the lecture part, the tutorial 2 or 4 hours, and a reference.
Absolutely.
So it's really a mini book
yes.
in many cases.
Well, in previous symposium, many moons ago, they used to publish, and you probably remember, the book.
The binder.
The binder of the tutorial notes. So now all of the tutorial notes are available online for the attendees, and then they can download and save the ones that they want. And if they want to print, I'm still old-fashioned. I like paper and books. So you can print them as well.
Well, that's cool. So the tutorials run, I think, now in 2 different tracks.
Yes.
And that you also provide a structure to that. So there might be an introductory tutorial, and then later in the conference there'll be a more advanced tutorial along that line, and then the supplemental papers that are along that topic. So you kind of provide guidelines, because it's 5 tracks this year? So
we do have 5 tracks, and we work very closely. The tutorials committee works very closely with the program committee. And as you said, we have a series of introductory tutorials. We have intermediate as well as advanced and expert tutorials. So we try very hard to structure those in such a way that the paper sessions, align with the introductory tutorials, and so that attendees can really kind of guide through the program. Even if you're brand new to Rams, you can attend a couple of introductory tutorials, and then you're prepared to see some of the later papers. Mm-hmm. But if you're a long-time attendee, we try to put some of our more advanced topics, at the beginning, so that you've got something to do as well.
You hear that every year at these conferences. Well, there's things in 3 tracks I want to see.
Yeah.
Simultaneously, and it speaks to the quality of and the types of topics and the interests people have and so on. In the feedback mechanisms you get, Are you seeing any changes or trends of what people are looking for, or has that stayed pretty constant?
So right now we've actually switched from paper forms to the online feedback forms.
Last year you handed out tablets to help people do
Last
that.
year we handed out tablets. Unfortunately, we did not get a great electronic response form, so I really can't tell you.
Might have to try it on Facebook.
Yeah. So we've really been pushing the feedback this year because we really are interested. With the tutorials, again, we pride ourselves on the quality, so we want to make sure that those are of the highest quality, but we also want to make sure that we're covering the topics that, like you said, that folks want to hear. So, I know everybody gets asked to do 1 million surveys, but if you come to the Rams, if you would please do the surveys, we really do appreciate it. We do appreciate the feedback. You'll see in the program, there's a lot of, basic, good old-fashioned R&M stuff, but we're moving into, we've got some sessions on big data and analytics and, prognostics and things like that. So, moving in those directions.
Right. How about anything on the asset management or maintenance type stuff? Do any tutorials stand out?
So, yeah, we do have, I was trying to look at my, my list here, sorry.
Yeah.
We've got some tutorials on accelerated testing. I've got a couple of risk-based tutorials this year. So one is evaluating risk from a management perspective, and the other one is looking at risk assessment and safety, asset management in theory and practice. We do have a new.
I knew it's new.
It's a new tutorial this year.
Is that based on some of the feedback? Because I know some people, a good number of people from the asset management come here because of the tools overlap so
right.
much. So it's
right. Yeah, and so when we get our the abstracts submitted, we have a core set of tutorials, and then we try to do a nice mix. We want to have continuation of tutorials that we know are excellent, but we also want to bring in new authors, and so we're trying to run the gamut. So we do have the asset management. We've got a new tutorial this year on human reliability, so I'm interested to see how that goes.
I think I'm in a session parallel to that one, otherwise I'd be in it. It's such a major part of that gets overlooked, and even many consumer products even, where it really does matter. So no, it's a good mix, and I appreciate that it changes. You're constantly experimenting and what's the audience looking for, and getting the feedback again is so important.
It is.
Yeah. Are people, and I've seen this a number of times when we do the opening, it's like 1/3 of the people in the audience are first time.
Right.
Right. And one of the things I remember the committee has put together, and as a tutorial author, is at the end of the tutorial, everybody wants their certificate
form stamped, yes.
Yeah, that's it's not completely wiped out, but it's minimized the number of people that want to ask more questions or stay engaged, because they know there's this long line. So what's the certificate program? Okay,
so the certificate program is a way for folks to formalize their educational experience at RAMS. So we do work with IEEE for continuing education units, because folks need those to maintain their professional registrations and things like that.
Does that work for chartered people in Europe? The chartered engineers?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know. That's a great question.
Maybe they know that it doesn't work, so they don't ask. I don't know.
Right. So,
anyway,
the
PEs, the professional engineers, can get the credit for the hours.
Right. So then, in parallel with that, we offer the RAMS tutorial certificate program, like I said, as a way to formalize the educational experience. So the certificate program, there is a small fee associated with that. $75. You complete a total of 15 tutorials over at least 2 symposia, and we ask folks to complete it in 4 years so that all of the information is timely. So there's 5 core tutorials that are offered on Monday and Tuesday that everyone that participates in the program completes, and then they choose an additional 10 tutorials over at least 2 years related to their personal and professional interests.
Okay, and there's plenty to choose from, so it's still not easy to do.
Right, right.
It's easy to find something to go to, but the decisions may be, well, I haven't run into anybody that said, oh, I have to go to this tutorial to complete my certificate. It says I have 5 choices, and which one do I go to?
Right. And I try to communicate. I maintain the database, and so I try to communicate with all the certificate participants and let them know, hey, these are the tutorials that are being offered that you've already attended. So when you're looking at the list,
I've been there.
You've been there.
Right.
It's been a year, but you've been there. But folks do like to attend the tutorials multiple times. I mean, they're good information. It's always good to refresh your memory, especially of some of these introductory topics. As we kind of go, a deep dive into our little area, it's always nice to come back and take a high-level view.
Now, you do a tutorial also, right?
Yes.
You've been doing that for it's longer than you've been on the committee, if I remember.
1 year longer. Okay. So when I became a faculty member at the University of Dayton, this tutorial Richard Cassidy did for many years, and so as a new faculty member, he said,
here you go.
Here you go. So I do the Introduction to Probability Models in Reliability and Maintainability.
All right, now I'm going to stop you there because I sat in on your first time you did that, and
oh, right.
And I'm holding up my no MTBF mug.
Yes.
And you led off and spent an inordinate amount of time, in my opinion, on exponential and MTBF. Why do we still teach that? Because
in my experience, people are still using it.
So that's a chicken and an egg thing.
Yeah.
We could derail, I could go off on this, but my only thought on it was if we stop, it's a stepping stone to bad habit. It's not a stepping stone to using better practices. Weibull is just as easy to start with and more versatile.
It really is, but a lot of the early and most basic probability and reliability models are based on the exponential distribution because it's mathematically tractable, right? And we can do the math. And so in my opinion, I think that it's important to understand where those models come from.
And I totally agree that if you're explaining what a PDF and a CDF is and hazard function, keeping the math simple allows people to understand the steps to get there. Please don't lead off with it. I'll give you some no MTBF buttons. You can say, this is for educational purposes, not for real life use.
Right,
that kind of thing.
Right. People are going to try to have you use this in real life.
Just say no.
Just talk.
Just say no.
Well, I think I mentioned, I was like, you'll see the guys. They'll be in here as soon as I'm in here. But it is, it is the basis of a lot of the theoretical models.
And it's out there. It's in the textbooks. It's in so many industries. It's just basically the language. So and you did do a really good job of saying, well, this is what it is. This is what it means. Here's the underlying assumptions. So that's all good.
I also say if you think if you believe that the underlying distribution is appropriately modeled by the exponential distribution, then preventive maintenance is useless and the impact of corrective maintenance is irrelevant.
That's right.
So there you go.
See, I'd follow it up with this, have you ever seen that situation?
Yeah.
And no. That rarely, if ever, happens. So that's part of where it is easy and it makes it quick to go do it. And that's why I say it's a stepping stone to bad habits, because they make the assumption and they'll check.
Right.
And they make bad decisions. But it goes quickly into Weibull and log normal and a handful of these other models.
We do a little repairable systems modeling.
Do you do much with the mean cumulative function?
No.
I found that becomes such an easy graphic to use. The regression part's a little more complicated.
Right.
But just the graphic and not even fitting a line to it is pretty useful.
So in the follow-up tutorial that Professor Lemus does on the following day, he spends a significant amount of time talking about using failure data and parameter estimation. So in my tutorial we don't have any data. We only have models.
Okay.
And then later on, Professor Lemus comes in and says,
now that you have data.
Now that you have data, how do we use these models to fit the data? Because suppose that beta is 2.2. Okay, that's fine. We can do the math and work the problems, but how did you determine that beta was 2.2? Well, you got to go talk to Larry. Larry will tell you how to do that.
You know, I was so disillusioned the first time I looked at the confidence intervals around the beta parameter, and I had a couple hundred failure points and maybe 1,000 censored points, and I thought I had a wealth of data, right? And the confidence interval on the fit was nice and tight, and I was and it fit the line really well, and I was all happy with my residuals on the regression, and I thought, oh, this is all wonderful. And then somebody said, well, it's 2.2, give or take what? Because that slope really makes a huge difference. And I ran that calculation, and it was like 0.6 to 3.8 or something like that. And I went back and, well, how many numbers do I need to get this to be, plus or minus a tenth? And it was like hundreds of thousands of samples.
Right.
It was really tough to get some of those parameters well. Yet we often deal with, what's the quote? I think it's a Yogi Berra quote is, no, it's not. It was either George Box or George Cox. All models
George
are wrong.
Box, yeah.
All models are wrong.
All models are wrong, but some of them are useful.
That's right.
I believe I said that. I think I say that pretty regularly. All models are wrong. Some of them are useful. Some of them are not.
That's right. Well, the RAMS program and your tutorial in some of the cornerstone pieces that are here provided, it's not offered anywhere. The basics and intros and stuff like that. A lot of the seminars and workshops are more advanced. That's your competition on the high end, but there's not a lot of intro stuff out there.
Well, and I find in speaking with the attendees, some of us were trained as industrial engineers and reliability engineers, and we took these courses in college. But a lot of folks are mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, and then they find themselves one day as the reliability guy.
It's the tap on the shoulder and it says,
right.
Hey, poof, you're it now.
And so, for those folks that find themselves, serendipitously or whatever, into the reliability world, it is really nice to give a nice foundation, and then they can take their other knowledge and their expertise and combine that and then be really effective.
That's right. That's right. It gives them a path to do that. So, I was going to wrap it up here, but what
Sure.
would you say would be if you were going to sit down and talk to, say, a recent graduate or somebody that just got tapped on the shoulder, why would they, you explained a piece of that, but what should they tell their manager as why they should come to the conference? Why would they pay for that airfare to get them here? Right.
Well, this is the premier event for reliability and maintainability. We're in our 63rd year of holding the symposium. There's a wealth of knowledge, everything from, like you said, introductory tutorials to expert tutorials, the paper sessions, the panel sessions, excellent opportunities for networking. That is one thing I really think that the committee does a nice job with here, is providing time and space for networking. So we do have a full program. Yes, the students are working 8 to 5, so it's not a vacation, but we do have lunch times and breaks scheduled in so that we can network and and really become a community.
It's one of the parts that you can't get on a webinar or on a small seminar that you do in company, is here you can make connections with people in other industries that are facing the same problems. And they may be a year ahead of you, and you can help them, and they can help you.
And you see it in the spaces like where we're at now, where folks, they make a connection and they're able to talk, and then we're all in one place. So, at the end of the symposium, we can go across the street and have dinner and continue our discussions.
That's right.
It's really very nice.
It's a great place to talk shop.
It really is, and there's a lot of shop talk that goes on, but it's nice to be with your people, right?
That's
and
right.
You could talk about maximum likelihood estimators and linear regression and confidence intervals and
all that good stuff.
All that good stuff, but we won't talk about mean time between failures.
That's right.
We will not do that.
We should really minimize that.
We should.
Oh, yeah.
I'll cut the number of slides in that section in half.
I'll send you one of my logo slides.
You should. Yeah, I want a button.
Okay. I thought about doing it this year, and then time got ahead of me, and I need a couple weeks lead, but I'll do that for next year.
Yeah, for Reno.
That's right.
bring the buttons to Reno.
Okay, good. Well, thanks so much, Kelly,
Thank
for
you.
sitting down and talking with me. And
Yeah.
have fun with the rest of the program. It seems to be running smoothly. So.
Well, let's not jinx ourselves.
That's right. There you
Okay,
go. Thank
you very much.
Appreciate it.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks.